I actually think this is about the vaccine. I think this is about making sure everybody's vaccinated, so much so that the heads of our health department, the FDA, the CDC, Anthony Fauci himself, are trying to stop us from getting to natural herd immunity, which is just around the corner. Man, they're fighting hard to hold this horse back in order to make you believe you need a vaccine. And here's Anthony Fauci admitting it himself.
Ultimately, the showstopper will be obviously a vaccine where you can vaccinate people and you won't have it. There's going to be another issue that's going to be important, and it has to do with somewhat of a comparison, for example, with influenza. We go through multiple cycles of influenza. There's always a degree of background immunity in the population. I mean, that will ultimately happen if we get a situation where we get back to normal. Now, I hope we don't have so many people infected that we actually have that herd immunity, but I think it would have to be different than it is right now.
God forbid we reach herd immunity naturally and get our economy back online and step up to hold on to our fight to be a dominating superpower in this world where our people matter most to the United States of America. We don't have to wait for China to ask them what we're allowed to do. But when it comes to the vaccinations, I want to jump in. We're going to get deeper and deeper into this as we get closer and closer to this warp speed vaccine that's on our way. Many of you know billions of dollars being spent to produce vaccines that are only still in their safety trials. The number one contender in the United States of America is the Moderna vaccine. And by the way, Tony Fauci's own NIH, where he works, has patents in the Moderna vaccine. There are scientists directly related and work for Fauci that stand to make millions of dollars in the future if this vaccine is successful. Can you say conflicts of interest? I can, and I always will. But here's the point. There was a great interview on CBS by Norah O'Donnell, and she interviewed Bill Gates on where the trials are at with Moderna and brought up some really interesting points. Why Bill Gates? I didn't know he went to med school. In fact, I really only remember him being involved in antitrust issues like are being discussed yesterday with Zuckerberg. So the king of antitrust problems, Bill Gates, is who we're going to ask about the Moderna vaccine. This is it on CBS.
You mentioned side effects. The side effects for the Moderna vaccine sound concerning. We looked. After the second dose, at least 80% of participants experienced a systemic side effect, ranging from severe chills to fevers. So, are these vaccines safe?
Well, the FDA, not being pressured, will look hard at that. The FDA is the gold standard of regulators, and their current guidance on this, if they stick with that, is very, very appropriate. And you know, the side effects were not super severe. That is, it didn't cause permanent health problems for the things there. Moderna did have to go with a fairly high dose, and so to get the antibodies. Some of the other vaccines are able to go with lower doses to get responses that are pretty high, including the J&J and the Pfizer. And so there's a lot of characteristics of these vaccines. It's great that we have multiple of them that are
Bill,
going out there. And yes, I think
you know the data
US
better than I do. But the data showed that everybody with a high dose had a side effect.
Yeah, but some of that is not dramatic, where it's just super painful. But yes, we need to make sure there's not severe side effects.
We sure do. And by the way, when it comes to asking questions, which is what the High Wire has done, we are being censored. I hope that, Norah holds on to her job for asking the obvious questions, since everybody in the Moderna trial got sick. Remember, only 0.26% are dying from the virus itself. Most people are being described as asymptomatic, meaning you've got to take a test in this country to find out if you even had the virus or have it right now, because you can't even feel it. You don't have fevers. You don't have symptoms. You don't have pain in your arm. You don't have anything. You are walking around apparently able to spread this deadly virus, but you can't feel a thing. However, everybody getting this vaccine, even in the low dose group, did feel something, and the high dose groups had severe adverse reactions. Those were great questions by CBS, terrible, bumbling, fumbling, answers by Bill Gates. And why? Why are we listening to Bill Gates? I mean, honestly, we're going to shut down a dozen doctors giving their firsthand experience from their lifelong, careers as doctors, but forget them. They're not allowed to speak, but Bill Gates is. Well, the Moderna vaccine appears to be a disaster right now. Unfortunately, we've already spent $1 billion producing this vaccine that is doing a terrible job in its trials. And guess what? Now we're going on to 30,000 more people in the next phase of this trial. And when he said, well, they all did have an adverse reaction, but there were no long-term reactions. Really? How do you know that? And I want you to think about this. This is a really weird vaccine, the first of its kind. We didn't just put a little piece of virus inside of people, which sometimes will cause a fever. You get a little bit of the illness and your body reacts and they'll say that's normal. These people basically have a piece of data, of RNA, a message that's been injected into them that's just sending a message to their cells to start creating little mutations in proteins. There's no real virus in them. Why are they getting sick? What is happening to their cells right now? Guess what? No one in Moderna knows. No one actually knows what this is doing to their cells right now as they speak. But he pointed out the Oxford study. Oh, let me make this clear, that Tony Fauci, who is really worried about the health consequences of a drug, hydroxychloroquine, that's been used safely, and as we just heard, pregnant women for 65 years. Here's what he had to say about people getting sick from the Moderna vaccine. Dr. Anthony Fauci isn't particularly concerned about the safety of Moderna coronavirus vaccine. Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, the product all of us are going to be injected with that killed, ferrets in the animal trials, he doesn't care about the safety of that. He cares about one of the safest drugs on the planet while people are dying. All right, go and make sense of that. But let's look at the Oxford trial really quick. I'm not going to get super deep into this. You've been with me a long time today, but just so you can glance at it, because I think this is what it's all about. They're gunning for a treatment because they can't sell you a vaccine if they have a treatment that saves that tiny percentage of people that get sick. For the rest of us, we wouldn't need anything. But they're going to tell us we need a vaccine and we have to take it to protect that 0.26%. If you have a drug that protects the 0.26%, no need for a vaccine. Get it? You see the math on that? You see how this works? Let's see how the Oxford trial is going. This is from The Lancet, Safety and Immunogenicity of the you get it, that's the vaccine, against SARS-CoV-2, a preliminary report of a phase 1/2 single-blind randomized controlled trial. Here's some of the things that stood out to us. These are the findings between April 23rd and May 21st, 2020. There were 1,077 participants were enrolled and assigned to receive either the vaccine for COVID-19 or a meningococcal vaccine, a very heavy dose vaccine, and 10 of whom were enrolled in the non-randomized vaccine prime boost group, meaning only 10 people got the booster shot, even though everyone's saying you're going to have to get a booster shot for this vaccine to work. Only 10 people actually got it. They had local and systemic reactions were more common in the vaccine group that got the COVID-19 vaccine compared to those that got the meningococcal vaccine. So this was more painful and difficult than the meningococcal vaccine. Many were reduced by use of prophylactic paracetamol, including pain, feeling feverish, chills, muscle ache, headache, and malaise. They actually changed midstream. They were having such apparent problems with pain and headaches that they added paracetamol as a new control, like a group that got Tylenol, basically. They got Tylenol, which wasn't supposed to be allowed to be part of the trial, because obviously that's going to mess up some of your findings. They didn't care because people were probably saying, I'm out of this study. I feel like crap. I don't want to do this any longer. Here, take some Tylenol. Well, how did it turn out, right? What was going on there? And why 10 people? Think about this. If you look at all that's being said by Bill Gates or Tony Fauci, they're starting to say we believe there's going to have to be multiple doses of these vaccines. They're just not proven to be powerful enough. And this vaccine in particular, they believe it's going to take 2 doses, yet out of 1,077, only 10 people got it. Let's look at some of these graphs and the discussion that took place. Here's how this study was done. Wrap your head around this. Group 1 consisted of participants who had intensive early follow-up visits for safety and immunogenicity purposes at days 3, 7, 14, 28, and 56 after vaccination. So to be clear, this 88 people out of 1,077 were the only ones that got intensive safety follow-up. This was a safety study, by the way, but only 88 were really involved in it. Group 2 consisted of participants who had higher blood volume draws for humoral and cellular immunogenicity assessment than Group 4. That's 412 people. They are not a part of the safety study. We're not doing safety studies on them. Oh, and here's the famous 10. Group 3 consisted of 10 participants who were enrolled in a non-randomized prime boost group and received a booster shot. The only ones that got the booster administered 20 days after the first dose. These participants were not blinded, meaning we chose them specifically, handpicked these 10, and had extensive follow-up for safety and immunogenicity purposes as per Group 1. So that, and remember, Group 1 had 88 people. This is a 1-to-1 trial. So in that group, really only 44 people that got this vaccine really had safety follow-ups. Let's add the 10 from this strange group of 10 that are the only ones getting a booster shot. So you had about 54 total people that had real safety follow-up out of the 1,077. This last group, 4, which consisted of participants who had a serum sample drawn for humoral immunology. And man, I'm getting tongue-tied now. We're getting near the end here. But take a look at this. This is how it broke down. This is that Group 1. You can see that they are being compared 1-to-1 with the meningococcal vaccine. You can see that Group 3, this is the 10 people. They have no placebo group. They have been handpicked. They have nothing, you know, they really are the only ones taking the full 2 shots, and there's no placebo group, and there's only 10 of them. And then lastly, over here, you have the final group that there are 480 approximately in both the vaccine group for COVID-19 and the meningococcal. But I want to focus on this 10 people. I want to ask you, if first of all, does it bother you that this has been done so many different ways? I mean, this was supposed to be, if you want a good safety trial, half of 1,077, at least 500 should be getting the vaccine. The other half should be getting a saline injection, but we're not getting saline, we're getting meningococcal. And let's compare them as we go through this. And by the way, we know everyone's getting 2 doses, so give everybody 2 doses. Instead, they have this cockamamie, everybody's getting a different thing. I'm telling you, I know you don't look at medical studies, you don't look at this, but I have shown multiple scientists, and no one can make any sense of this. To me, it looks like they're just trying to create a smokescreen so that no matter what happens, you can't figure it out. But let's figure out what we can figure out. Who are these 10 people that were the only ones to get 2 doses? Take a look at this. So this is the cellular immunity. Remember, antibodies don't seem to make much of a difference when it comes to COVID-19. It's your cellular immunity, your T cells, that really matter. Well, they tested everybody's T-cell immunity count before the study started. So that's where you see study day 0. Where was the baseline? Well, shockingly enough, 64 people that were getting the meningococcal, of the people getting the meningococcal, they had a base rate of about 64 T-cell immunity already to COVID-19 from previous immunity. We've already talked about this previous immunity. They had a level of 64. In the group getting the vaccine, they went with a level of 60. All those people had a baseline level about 60 already present T-cell immunity cells to the COVID-19. But look at this. Ironically or shockingly, I'm sure this is by complete accident, the 10 people chosen that are going to actually get the 2 doses, they have 108 previous T cells ready to fight this illness. Already starting. They have almost double the baseline amount of immunity just starting out. I don't know. Call me skeptical. There's something really strange about that. So they get the vaccine, right? Let's look what happens. Well, they get the vaccine. So on study day 7, go back. I think it's easier to read the other way. Let's get rid of the colors. Study day 7 there. Look at that column. It says 7. What we see is that they're the amount of T cells goes up to 67.3 in the meningococcal group. It didn't really move. It went up a tiny bit, God knows why, but it had nothing to do because they got a meningococcal vaccine. But the vaccine appears to have worked pretty well. The group that had started with a baseline of 60 T cells went up to 183. But look at our superheroes. You know, over here, the Justice League, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the people that came in with strong immunity to this already, they jump up to 258 as soon as they get a single vaccine. So the superheroes are reacting really great. Now look at this, day 14. Well, meningococcal's failing because it has nothing to do with COVID-19. And look, it looks like it is boosting up pretty good, 856. So it's going up in the group that got the vaccine. That's promising. But look at our superheroes. They've got 1,642 T cells. The Justice League is rocking it out. The only group that's going to get the official full dosage. Well, then look what happens. By day 28, you know, meningococcal's where it should be, and now it's starting to fall apart. The T cells disappearing. Within 28 days, it's already fading on the real group, the natural human beings. By the way, all perfectly healthy. Nobody has comorbidities. They're, I think, somewhere between the age of 35 and 55, I believe, or 65. But look at our superheroes. They've gone down too. Even though they were up at 1,600 T cells, this vaccine is falling apart. It drops down to 528. Remember, they get a booster shot on day 28. What happens after their booster shot? They go down to 445. Then they kind of peter in around 614. Basically, the booster shot did nothing at all. It really did nothing at all, and this is extremely problematic, especially when you look at the study. It admits it. Here's the first thing the study says in its body of the study. However, a boost in cellular responses was not observed following the second dose. This is consistent with the previous findings on viral vectored vaccines given as part of a homologous prime boost regimen. They're talking about they did it on monkeys. They've tried this multiple times. The delivery system, basically, they have a hollow adenovirus that's carrying the gene. What happens is your body sees the adenovirus and it develops immunity to that. We are trying to get you immune to the gene, but it starts attacking the adenovirus, which is why they believe a second dose may not work, because now your body sees that adenovirus, which is just basically the spaceship carrying this gene programming to your body. It's going to attack it and kill it every time it sees it. So the second dose doesn't work, neither will a third dose. This is going to be extremely problematic. Does that stop this study? It sure doesn't. In fact, it forces them to lie in their conclusion. Here's what the conclusion says, and this is what they said at the CDC at the ACIP meeting this week. After 2 doses, potent cellular and humoral immunogenicity was present in all participants studied. All 10 of the 1,077, and we just showed you in their own numbers, that's bull. It didn't go anywhere after the second dose. The second dose was useless. There's plenty more to report on these trials. We are going to keep a microscope on it. For everyone out there saying, Del BitChute's trying to make people afraid of the vaccine, it's really, really not true. I'm attempting to make this process as safe as it can possibly be. I will never take vaccines out of the hands of people that want them. For those people in a high at-risk group that could potentially die, you deserve to have every treatment available to you that's possible. But for those of us that have literally zero risk, or 0.000 something risk, I think we should have a choice, and I think we should be aware of how safe these products are. You now have Bill Gates and Tony Fauci saying things like, it may not actually stop transmission, but it could lower the symptoms. We're seeing the exact opposite. We're seeing everybody getting symptoms in these trial groups. But for those, and remember, how do you lower symptoms in the population? We are asymptomatic. We have to get a test to know whether we have it. That's how little symptoms we have. So this vaccine could lower us from no symptoms to what?
If you like that clip, then be sure to check out our live broadcast of The High Wire every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. You can watch it on Facebook, iTunes, and Twitter. We'll see you there.